Hey everyone, so today I'm going to talk about my top 10 video games of all time. This is a personal list, games that I've grown up with or still play today, from old to new. But these are my top 10 games of all time that I just think are fantastic games. I'm not basing this on sales, I'm basing it solely on my enjoyment in life. I think there are a bunch of other really cool games out there, but these are my top 10. So the first one that I have is a game for the Atari called Adventure. For those of you that never played Atari or didn't play Adventure, you can see the cover here. This dragon on the front. I just used to love that cover, the dragon. And it was such an interesting game. You were this little square, as you can see on the screen, and you would move around the castle, fight some dragons, try to find the magic key. Really fun, cool game. One of my favorite as a kid that I used to play. Another game, one of my favorites, this was probably when I was in elementary school, so 3rd, 4th grade, is a game called Barge Tail. This was a computer game, and basically it was one of the really, first, games where you would go through, like role-playing games, where you would fight monsters and really have to level up a character, and it took so much time to beat. It was such a lengthy process. The game was funny. There were some things that didn't make any sense, but it was a really cool game. A bunch of other games based off of it came out afterwards, but this was one of the first role-playing games you could buy for the computer. Great game. Lots of hours played in this. Next game, Nintendo game. So this was my first Nintendo game, Super Mario Brothers 1. I played this game forever, just love it. I think it's a classic game. People still play it today. My kids play it. Just a classic to have on all systems. Next game, another classic, The Legend of Zelda. I just love the art, the cover, and the gold cartridge are just awesome. I just love that idea. But the game itself was just great. So much fun. A game that I still play today, that I also play with my kids. They play the Zelda and Mario series still, which is great. But just such a fun game. Super Mario 2. This is the only game on my list that I think is probably underrated. I don't think a lot of people would consider this in their top 10, but it really is for me. It came out when I was in 4th grade. I just love this game, and I still do. I think it's one of the best Mario games out there. I think it's such a fun game. There were so many little tricks you could find in this game, like how to find where all the warp zones were, and which character was better on which level and stuff like that. Just a really good game. Super Mario Brothers 3, not much to explain here. I think this is probably on most top 10 lists. Just an awesome game. Really brought the Mario franchise from 1 and 2 to number 3. It's hard to make consecutive good games. Mario was able to do it. This game was featured in The Wizard. I remember seeing that movie in the theater just to get the preview of Super Mario Brothers 3. Always a fun game. And then another game that I think is underrated for the Nintendo is Super Mario 64. A lot of people would say, well, what about the Oceana of Time? Why isn't that on your list? Well, I think Mario 64, when I first got my Nintendo 64, this was the game I really spent a lot of time on. Now, I did play the Zelda game. They were both these 3D worlds, really the first 3D world games you could play, both just amazing. But I think the Mario 64 had a little bit of something different, and for some reason I was the first one I really played. Zelda was kind of second, so I looked at it as kind of almost like, okay, well, they took what they did in Mario and now did it to Zelda, even though I think both of the games actually came out at the same time. But I really loved Mario 64, just a classic game of playing Mario in this 3D world. Really set the stage for Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Odyssey for the Wii and Switch, which are some of the biggest selling games ever, some of the highest rated on Metacritic. So I think this really set the stage for those. I just love this game. Next is Halo 3. I did play the first and second Halo, but it really didn't get into the multiplayer aspects of Halo until Halo 3. I think this is one of the first big multiplayer first-person shooter games to really come out, and I feel like Halo 2 and Halo 3 both set the stage for all the Call of Duties and all the first-person shooters we see out there now. But this game, a lot of good times. The ranking system, trying to rank up to level 50, just a blast. A lot of fun playing this on the Xbox. Next game, and I only have one more after this. This is number 9, and I put these in order of oldest to newest. So World of Warcraft World of Warcraft is probably one of the best PC games ever made. It has such a long life. You know, it's been played for so many years now, and the user base is so high, and they keep releasing new expansions. Really fun game, lots of hours to play and get into, but you know, so much has happened with this game. I think it's just a really great game, and I still like to enjoy it. And finally, League of Legends. This is a game I currently play. I've played this game for a number of years now. This and Dota 2 were really the first these boards that you could play, basically, you know, capture the flag type games where you try to capture a base, but really fun games. So I put League of Legends on my top 10 list. So that's it. That's my top 10 list. I just want to have a few honorable mentions, maybe more than a few. There's like 30 of them here. But these were all games when I started to come up with my list of my top games. This was my list. I had those 10 and then these 30. I was pretty easily able to separate these out, but you can take a look at some of these. I have, you know, what the game is and where it was from. Like, for example, Gauntlet. Super fun arcade game as a kid. I have Zelda, Oceania of Time, Pac-Man, Joust, Frogger, UFO, which probably none of you have played. It was a game for the Magnavox Odyssey. This was a system that came out in like the late 70s. Now, I wasn't born until 79, but I still had the Magnavox Odyssey as a kid. Loved this game. Such a great game. You don't see a lot of Magnavox Odyssey games on any top lists anywhere, but this is a game that I just loved. I think it's really great. Contra, Metroid, Super Mario World, Zelda, A Link to the Past, Street Fighter 2, 007 for the N64. That was one of the first, you know, like almost multiplayer games you could play with people. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Mario Kart for the N64, Grand Theft Auto, which was a huge, just different kind of game. Wolfenstein, the whole Wolfenstein series for the PC that I played as a kid on the Apple II, all the way to playing it on the PC, like the Wolfenstein 3D, just amazing series, amazing games. Doom, Minecraft, which my kids still play, Pole Position, Double Dragon, Mortal Kombat, which was a huge game changer in the arcade world, Missile Command, Pitfall, Dragon Warrior. My only sports game I really have on the list is Tecmo Bowl. I love sports games, and I think they're a lot of fun, but as far as saying best games ever, I'd put Tecmo Bowl as one of the best. Duck Hunt, Star Fox, SimCity, Tetris, Perfect Dark, and Rock Band. Those are my games that were really close to making the list, but just couldn't quite cut it compared to my top 10. Thank you.